Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is a Red Pill Podcast 164. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend wherever you are in this Matrix. And as mentioned in the last Red Pill podcast, to anticipate volatility this week, and that is absolutely how it went down. We are still in this horizontal trading range, so we're just making some progress, but not really a full-blown recovery just yet, especially for the altcoins. But we have new updates to get into regarding the traditional markets, as well as silver and gold. We will be checking in on precious metals today due to the recent breakouts. And I have a little bit of decode information for you today, but we're going to be mostly focusing on the markets and a couple of altcoin projects that we haven't talked about in quite a while. And then, of course, as usual, some words of wisdom on the recent distractions in the Matrix. But here we are today, 67 days since Bitcoin's all-time high, and we are trading at $67,000. Shocker. So, watching some code unfold, and we're going to be talking about when to anticipate this breakout continuing on for the crypto market and perhaps mimicking what we're watching happen in the traditional markets. But before we get into that, make sure to get relaxed, get comfortable, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's the morning time, or a glass of wine or beer or any beverage of your choice if it's a little bit later in the afternoon for you. And if you are new to the Wolfpack, welcome. So great to have you here with us. If you've yet to get access to our Discord server, just go ahead and send me a direct message on Patreon with your Discord username, and I will reply back to you in a Patreon message with your Discord server invite. Please don't comment your Discord information below or email me or any other way. It won't work. You'll need to direct message me on Patreon in order to get access to our Discord. And this week, you guys did a phenomenal job at voting for the altcoins that we'll be reviewing. One of which is a very popular one that I haven't been able to get around to just because of some issues going on in the chart history, but it is Stronghold. We'll be reviewing XLM, Stellar Lumens, because we didn't cover that on the last What I'm Investing In podcast, just due to the volume of projects that we were going over. It was like 22 charts. And effectively, XLM wasn't doing much different than where it was at in the prior time I covered it. So today we'll be reviewing that, as well as Toncoin, Star Atlas, and if I have some extra time, I'll be covering some other projects, but really focusing today on what's going on in Bitcoin, how it's influencing Ethereum, the second biggest altcoin, and then ultimately how it's affecting the altcoin market as a whole. Perhaps we'll check in on Total 2 and Total 3, but if you have been following along here for even just a month to 2 months, we've been trying to get as much information out there on this specific time frame moving into June in an election year and talking about all this stuff. So today's going to be a lot of recap, but I'm going to try my best to add in some nuggets of wisdom along the way with any new updates thus far. And just moments ago, actually, right before I was going to press record, I got this update from a member with a link to this event that happened, seemingly a ritual of Iran's president. And this is just, I think, hard landing, no actual, no real big deal, I don't know. Is it a distraction? I don't know. But anyways, I don't wish any ill will on anyone. I'm not sure at all who Iran's president is. I don't really get into the politics game. But I'm not sure if this plan landed into nature or into a community. I have no idea. It just sounds like it's gonna be hitting the news pretty hard. And since Iran did have a drone strike on Israel just a month ago, I know they're a big part of this war conversation. So I believe many people will be talking about this. But anywho, could be an air ritual helicopter with Iran's president Very interesting. We're in this transition phase into the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign, even though it does have water symbolism. That has very much to do with us moving from the Piscean age into Aquarius. And who knows if there's going to be a big player on the world stage get taken out. It wouldn't surprise me if it was by air. But of course, a lot of people in the truther community are more leaning towards what could be going down with Mr. Joe, the U.S. chief and commander, because of his age, and he could barely string together a full sentence. So many believe that that's the way that could go down. And I don't know if I'll be getting around to any full decodes this year on how I think these elections will go. I mean, I'll see if I could add any information that could be worthwhile, but all in all, it's a selection. It's no election, it's a selection, and it's really just one of the biggest prana harvesting rituals every 4 years, perfectly in alignment with the Olympics. And just like a World Cup, it's to get people to put all this energy into this thing, to divide them and take them away from their people. I don't want to get political today. I just want to share where I'm at and why I don't have much desire or passion towards what's going on in the political landscape, because ever since and I'm not saying this to flex or anything, but ever since I woke up, I started to learn that if I just redirect my energy towards my purpose, that I will have the most impact on not only my own trajectory in life, but my family and the people that are resonating with my truth. I get that all of this stuff that's going on in the world stage, people want to hear my opinion on it, but I've been trying my best to be a real one and continue to come back to the mindset, continue to come back to what matters most, which is you living from your purpose and having the most impact on your community. And politics has nothing to do with that. So let's move on. Many of you are aware that we have a full moon coming up on May 23rd into May 24th, a full moon in Sagittarius. We've done a little bit of decoding on this in prior videos. Imagine you put a whole link to a website in the gematria calculator. Sagittarius giving you 144 in basic English ordinal. English ordinal is ABC equals 123, ending in Z, and Z being 26. But with this cipher, it's the most basic, and as you can see as well, 144 is a powerful number because it's 12 12s, and it's also the 12th Fibonacci number. So, powerful code, and 1 plus 4 plus 4 adds up to 9. 9 is the number of the ego. It's the number that always comes back to itself. Study the 369 code. By the way, that is not something that should be credited to Nikola Tesla, but yeah, it will be when you're researching. So we have Sagittarius giving us the 144 I just mentioned a moment ago. This will be a full moon in Sagittarius, and this just so happens to be a full moon landing on the exact same date as the 144th day of the year. So we have a syncretism between the 144 in Sagittarius gematria as well as the day of the year. Of course, this is not the sun in Sagittarius. We're talking about lunar astrology. So we won't be in Sagittarius and sidereal until December 16th for those that follow the tropical system, late November. And as of right now, on May 19th, we have effectively transitioned into Taurus in sidereal, meaning where the sun is actually at in the firmament dome. And if you're following in this tropical system, then we're at the tail end of Taurus moving into Gemini. But needless to say, in both systems, as I record right now, we are effectively in Taurus, the bull, which is ruled by Venus. And we've been getting a lot of energy into Fridays lately. Remember, Venus is Freya Day, Friday, it's Aphrodite. Also, that was a thing that I started sharing on the world stage about 3 years ago when I released this WatersAbove channel to the public and talking about Apru, which is Aphrodite, which is also April. It's where we get that from. And the significance in the month of April in markets. Yeah, that was a really long time ago. But I want to start talking about more of that stuff again. You know, I mean, I'm just trying my best to stay on track here with the bull run itself, but I love teaching the esoterica and the mythology along the ride. So getting back to this, we are effectively in Taurus until June 15th in sidereal. This has always been a interesting time frame during a year of the dragon, which we're in now, and we're going to be covering all of that, especially when we get to the year of the dragon analysis on the stock market. But we do have this upcoming full moon in Sag, and we have the gematria perfectly synchronized, with this day of the year. And this date lines up with it being 49 days since Satoshi's 49th birthday, which was on April 5th, which could definitely be pointing to a significant pivot, considering when we take from the day of the highest daily candle close, which was the same date that I was utilizing here, and we go 49 days later, you're going to see that the lowest daily close we've had was 49 days later. So I've been talking about this for a couple of videos now, and I'm going to continue to utilize this 49 code. And the two instances that I would apply this to would be off of Satoshi Nakamoto's 49th birthday, which I just mentioned a moment ago. And if I take 49 days into the future, that aligns with the full moon. Coincidentally, on Friday, Freya Day, day of Venus, in the sign of Taurus. Venus is ruling Taurus. Now, we also have another, as I mentioned, I would apply this to two instances, and the next one would be this April solar eclipse, which we would put 49 days after, and that would put you into May 27th. You could also consider that if we were to go off the 4-9 date, so we have in the Gregorian system, naturally, we have on 4-9, 49 code again, and we take 49 days later, including the end date, it's still bringing you to this May 27th date. So that is another instance where I would apply this into this very critical month of May. So 4-9 year of Satoshi, then we have the 4-9 date post solar eclipse, very powerful eclipse, and then we're using this 49 code because we've already seen that 49 code work so perfectly. 49 days from our current all-time high daily close to our current microcycle low daily close, as above, so below. It's working beautifully. Also, please note, especially if you are new here, our recent new moons and our recent full moons have been behaving a little unusual lately. And the reason for that, which we've been talking about for a while now, but if you're newer here, we need to reiterate this. The reason why the past new moon and the past full moon have been behaving a little bit unusual is because we were in an eclipse season. And not only just an eclipse season, we were in Mercury retrograde as well. So we had over here our solar eclipse inside of a time where Mercury was stationed retrograde. That's big. So that would mean to anticipate any of the following moons to be a little wacky, but they've actually been behaving pretty similarly. And one piece of analysis that some of you might remember was that I talked about the full moon or the post Mercury retrograde time frame getting a dip, and it's because we've been seeing that a lot lately. And by the way, if you're new to this chart, this is the Mercury retrograde chart that I've been using for some time now. All the red boxes are when Mercury is stationed retrograde. And you can see here, even with this little fake out, we did dip after Mercury retrograde. Over here, we did have a little bit of a bullish push up, but the following full moon, we got a dip. And then here, another example, which we're going to dive into in a moment, but we can see post Mercury retrograde dip into the full moon, a little bit further past it as well. And then recovery. We've seen this one too. Crazy move. This was a black swan event, retail banking crisis of Silicon Valley Bank. We had post Mercury retrograde, even though this was a bullish iteration, we still came down and had a dip in the full moon that followed it. So we've had this weird setup in this time because we had Mercury retrograde happening during the very last days. We had a full moon pretty much right during Mercury stationing direct. Very, very crazy setup to have all of this stuff going down during this box. We had a total solar eclipse. We had Mercury retrograde after Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, 100% narrative driven off of the Bitcoin ETF approval and all the inflows. We had the halving during it and the full moon. And this has just been a wild ride, So we also have an inverse head and shoulders playing out, excuse me. We also have a cup and handle forming. These are all things that I don't put so much emphasis on as a technical analyst because there's the energetics behind it. And we've watched many times cup and handles turn into other patterns. We've watched bullish W patterns turn into very bearish M patterns. We've seen situations where even a traditional head and shoulders pattern has broken out bullish. So it's that's why I don't put too much emphasis on that stuff. But depending on where we are in the energetics of it all, that's when I'll start to bring that stuff up. So if you're asking and wondering because you're a more intermediate level technical analyst, don't worry. I'm aware. Been doing this for a while now. I'm just trying to give you guys what I believe matters the most, and so that you're not falling for anything along the way, because a lot of what we've seen over the past, basically all of Q1 this year, was very exoteric. It was very narrative driven. And when we tune into the altcoins, it's obvious. So another esoteric data point I brought up in a couple Red Pill podcasts was that the way Bitcoin behaves after Mercury retrograde during eclipse seasons, and we have a couple iterations showing that 30 days after Mercury retrograde, we have 30 days after Mercury goes direct, we have a low. So I'm going to show you just a couple examples really quick because I don't want to take up too much time in this podcast, but we have April 21st of 2023 where we had a Mercury retrograde happening during eclipse season. And when we take from when Mercury goes direct until the absolute microcycle low that followed, it was 31 days. So pretty powerful to consider how we extended into this consolidation for a decent amount of time. I mean, if you look at this being when we entered this new trading range, we were in it all the way until technically 220 days. So at the start of our solar cycle, we pivoted right off the following solar eclipse. So I was anticipating us to do more of something like this instead of something like this because of the placement of the solar eclipse at the time, and also because of the sign that Mercury was in during Mercury retrograde. It was in Aries. Side note, but just for those astrology people out there, that's what was going on. We had a Mercury retrograde in Aries. Sun was in Aries. We had total solar eclipse in Aries. I mean, shit. It's just all Aryan crazy. And then, of course, we saw a lot of updates going on during that time frame as well regarding this war narrative. Just 1 second. I'm going to take a sip of water and then we'll continue. Okay. So I want to also go to, we had one more example. Is it 2021? Yeah, 2020. And I hope you guys are doing amazing. So we have this example over here where we had Mercury retrograde and eclipse season. And also, we were in a similar time of year, which is very important because you saw the last example that I gave you guys. It was during the similar time of year to what we're in now. This example that I'm about to get into is also a similar time of year. And if we take off of when Mercury stations direct and put it to the absolute low in the microcycle, it was 29 days later. So I want to just show you that if we were to come over to our recent Mercury retrograde, which ended on April 24th, I believe. My memory serves me correct. So we go over 29 days to 31 days, and look at what that does. That brings you to May 23rd through May 25th, exactly the timeline of this month's full moon. Also, if we throw the halving into the mix, which we just experienced, a new halving, and we go all the way back to the May 2020 halving, which is amazing. We're showing you only examples that are in alignment with the time of year that we're in now. So we have the halving in May. And if you look over to how this all went down, the absolute low that we had in this microcycle was May 24th into May 25th. Just like what I showed you a moment ago. So it's wild to see. And what's really crazy about this correction, guys, is that if we look at where we traded on May 24th and May 25th of 2020, we did not trade any lower, and we still haven't to this day. I mean, damn, what a buying opportunity around that halving. Bitcoin was $8,000, by the way, at that time. And I remember that vividly, little personal story of mine, because that was when I was really getting heavy into accumulating Bitcoin. At the time, my e-commerce business was failing, unfortunately, because of the C-19 crisis. And I was dealing with factories in China, and just the logistics got all screwed up. I've talked about this publicly many times on live streams, but anywho, I was looking for a way to kind of put that money that I've earned, the profits that I've accumulated from e-com, and to cut off my advertisement budget and start putting it into something that I believed in, which at the time was in alignment with the 1.5 years of deep research I put into crypto. So if you guys think that you're prepared as investors and you've only been in this game for a couple months and you already have fresh fiat in this market, then you're more, you have a quicker trigger finger than I have. I mean, I put in a lot of research before really diving into this. So that's just the kind of guy that I am. I did the same thing with ecom. It took about 4 to 5 months before I even got involved in it. I really studied a lot. Same thing with crypto. I was studying for about 1.5 years before I even put money into the market. And a big reason I was doing that was because I'm the kind of guy that I like to put 100% of my energy into one thing at one time and not get distracted in the process. So at the time, I was very successful with ecom, and that's what I was giving my prana to. I didn't want to double dip and play the crypto game at the same time, but I'm also glad that I didn't, because I probably would have got caught up in this huge crash. So I remember right on Cinco de Mayo of 2020 was some of my biggest entries that I made. I remember that day because I love Mexican food, and I was hanging out with some friends and family, and yeah, it was really cool to have those limit orders trigger and get into the market sub 10K Bitcoin. Now looking back at it now, it's funny because people think that in this recent timeline that I've quote unquote sold early, and I'm like, you don't understand. Like, first of all, the amount that I sold was de-risked between the 47 to 54K area to put into altcoins. It was a strategy. Those altcoins will make a lot more money than Bitcoin. But furthermore, when I got into Bitcoin was very low, much, much lower than even where we were in the last bear market. Double lower. So yeah, it's fun to look back at those times. And by the way, I know people that have been in this market since Bitcoin was a couple $100. So imagine what they're dealing with. Like, amazing for them to just sit back, relax, and kick it. Although we're all human in this game. A lot of the times when we have newbie gains, we tend to really make weird moves. And hopefully during your time here at WatersAbove, you've been able to correct and refine your investment thesis so that this time around you have an amazing, not you, that we have an amazing bull run together. And hopefully your investment thesis has a exit strategy that is not all about you just whipping around a Lambo. Go make a farm. Go make an animal sanctuary. Go do something awesome. Change the world. You know, that's what I'm in the process of. Thinking how I can be useful to this realm and all of the beautiful people that inhabit it. But getting back to this, I think it's pretty cool how back in the last halving in May, we got that dip down into May 24th, May 25th. It's in alignment with a lot of things that I just showed you. Also, just to save time, I want to bring up a couple data points that are pretty interesting, and it's dealing with the halving. Now, I know a lot of people are like, they don't believe at all in the halving and all that. That's fine. Let's just use it, though, as a critical pivot point, because it has statistically always been one. And it's funny because, you know, yes, we did get a new all-time high before the halving, but if you technically look at the day of the halving, we were at 65K, and we did not break higher after that halving, and we've also gone even dipping back into the mid-50s since the halving. So if you just erase this whole moment here, we're right on track to all the other prior cycles effectively. I mean, We just moved up a little bit too quick, but it was 100% narrative driven. And you got to remember, these big players in the game, they have so much access to capital that to them, this is like nothing. Nothing. I mean, and it's actually a little bit worrisome. I'm going to be real with you all here. I don't want to take up too much time on the podcast, but it's a little bit worrisome, the fact that Bitcoin was only able to get 6.8% higher than prior all-time highs, like under 7% broke out. And then now we've effectively still been in the same horizontal trading range going on 3 months soon. I mean, technically, if you wanted to count this move over here, it would have started here. This was the true breakout. We're on day 80. Like, if the institutions needed that much ammunition to only get us a little bit up, this is weird, man. This is telling me that like retail is like not in this market right now. And that's kind of a good thing, but it's also kind of a sign of like, it's very precarious. It's very precarious. I think I talked about that a little bit on yesterday's live stream. So I have this data, the halving data. It's just in regards to how many days post halving we've seen these like sideways and down consolidation ranges come to its finality. And I'm saving you time by just telling you the data. You can go back and check this for yourself if you'd like. But in 2012, after the first halving, we had about 40 days before we continued up to the next leg in the cycle. In 2016, it took about 55 days before we continued up into the next leg of the cycle. And in 2020, in the last iteration, it took us about 70. So right around here, all I'm doing is that I'm taking off of the halving and I'm taking it to the time frame where we started to effectively break out and continue on to the next leg of the bull run. So it took about 70 days. And if you really wanted to count it, I mean, damn, it took a lot longer. But it's the same sort of setup when you look at 2012 and 2016. They're very similar to the 2020 example, and it's making me feel it's probably going to be very similar to today, which means that if we were to take 40 days after the halving, that's putting us somewhere in early June. Then if we take about 55 days, it's taking us to mid-June. And then if you took a full 70 days, it's somewhere around late June, trading into July. Now, what is interesting about all of this, another pattern that I noticed, which could be a coincidence, is that post-halving, this like phase shift interacts with a new moon. The second new moon after the halving, or the third if there's an eclipse in the middle of those new moons, which we have had happen in past iterations. But regardless, it gives us the esoteric idea of the June and July new moons, which is a window of time between June 6th through July 5th. Please write this down. That could be a time frame to expect the next leg up in this bull run phase. And I would most likely assume it's more in that by late June into July is when we would notice this. Like, I do feel that if we were to chop longer, a little bit longer, it would lead to an overall healthier bull run, of course. If you've been around this channel now for at least the last half a year, you've heard me say warnings about this breakout in February, how if we were to just continue up to 80, 90K right now at that moment in late February into early March, that would not be healthy. That would be very, very bad for this bull run. But since we've done exactly what we wanted to happen, like, I know we shouldn't have desire here, we should keep our emotions out of it, but I'm just being real with you. That would have not been healthy for us to just keep raging to the upside parabolically. Not at that time. So the fact that we've had this consolidation range going on 2 months, very healthy. If we were to extend it out a little bit longer into mid-June, even better. Seriously, guys, trust me on this. This is how to have healthier bull runs. And also now the narratives are in the fog in the background. We don't hear them anymore. No one cares. And that's good. At least, I mean, I keep away from it so much to the fact that I know if I'm hearing it, that it's definitely out there in the public sphere. So if I'm not hearing it anymore, it's definitely a sign. But one thing to mention, because I just brought up the idea of June, July being when we enter true price discovery based on data, not on my opinion, although the esoterica does align with that. Well, we have moved up way too quick recently. This move up to 67K. It feels incredibly bullish, and honestly, from a technical perspective, we're looking pretty good right now, which is a good thing at the end of the day because we're in a bull run, and the whole goal of all of this is to be positioned and ready for the market to go up, right? So you're getting what you wished for. And we already had some incredible buying opportunities over the past month since the April 8th eclipse. And now we're just in the very last moments before this show continues. And I want to put emphasis on this again, even though Bitcoin has recovered nicely off this recent CPI data release last week, we can quickly check in on Ethereum. And you'll see where we're at in ETH. We're still effectively near this horizontal trading range low that's been in play now for over a month. You know, since this breakdown over here post solar eclipse, we're at day 36. So we're still in the exact middle of this range, kind of snaking around it. But so far, we're at, what, a 25% correction? Yeah, right on the money. We're 25% down. I mean, and we're probably at least 50% away from retesting prior all-time highs. Yeah, we're 60% away. I mean, let alone price discovery. So I hope you see what I'm trying to share here. You know, in the last cycle, Ethereum hit the linear chart 3.618. Like, let me just put it like this. If we were to compare cycles and we were to repeat what we did last time, that would be like Ethereum running up to $14,000 to $15,000. Now, that's not me decoding it and saying it will go there, because I do have that data coming soon in my crypto decoding blueprint, which I'm getting very close to releasing. I will be doing an ETH decode. I will be sharing some of my ideas of all the projects that I'm decoding and their projections for this cycle. But needless to say, I just want to let you know that if we were to repeat something similarly, then breaking $10,000 is likely. And that would be a horrible decision for everyone to wait and wait and wait and not take advantage of these mid-cycle corrections that we're getting, like we're watching right in front of our eyes. I mean, it's silly to not take advantage of it. I'm really hoping that this stuff, I don't want to tell people that you need to take action right now today, but it's been the theme of the last month. Every Red Pill podcast, I've been telling you this. Look at the Dogecoin chart, for instance. Doge is, what, 400% away from prior all-time highs? Yeah. And it's one of the few projects that dates all the way back to 2013, almost as far as Bitcoin. And it's hit the macro logarithmic 1.618 golden ratio in all past cycles. Again, this is not a time to sleep on this market waiting for more downside. Like, Doge can very well go to $3 to $4, and it's at fucking 14 cents right now. So waiting and praying for more downside is foolish, all right? Because we've been getting gifts over this past month, and that shouldn't offend or trigger anyone. Remember, it's called the Red Pill Podcast. We're trying to help each other here. We're trying to expand consciously, take our emotions out of it. So if we happen to correct deeper into this upcoming full moon, it's just another one of those opportunities. But if you want exposure to this market and you haven't already been dollar cost averaging, I just want you to know this isn't the time to be waiting. Not financial advice, but the last bull run had the same situation back in the summer of 2020. I remember in July 2020, let me show you. We had this like crazy fake out, which looked like a distributional top. And at the time I was learning Wyckoff, so it was very, very elusive, but it was this distributional top right here. We had this breakout rally post halving, and then we came down into early September, right around Rosh Hashanah, which is right here, I believe. And a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people at the time were like talking about how the run could be over and Bitcoin could be going down to a new low. A lot of people were getting, this was a precarious time. I'll just put it that way. September into October was a precarious time. So we don't want to get shaken out right now. If we do get lower opportunities, it's just an opportunity. But I do remember this vividly around Rosh Hashanah of 2020. Then once October rolled around, the market just went crazy. I mean, it just went parabolic. So if we do get one of these final moves to the downside, it's a gift of gifts, but don't get caught up in this waiting game and don't get greedy to the downside. So let's pause here on Bitcoin and head over to the S&P chart, because we've had a new development that's giving us a very rare setup that's only happened a couple of times, which is all-time highs in mid to late May during a dragon year. So, which we're in now, as you're aware. And since the CPI data for April was released this past Wednesday on May 15th, that has been the case. So we need to revisit our dragon year analysis, starting with 2012 and going backwards all the way to 1928, as we have in the past. This isn't predictions. This is me exposing patterns, and this is undeniable patterns. So we want to recap this stuff and keep up with it, because it very much could be telling us the influence it will have on Bitcoin and crypto, which is what most of us are invested in. But essentially, if you did not know, this past Wednesday, the CPI data hit projections on the nose. I mean, it was like right there on the money, and the market went crazy. And now the S&P is back nearing overbought RSI levels. So it was just way too bullish, way too quick. This is very narrative driven as well. And not many analysts assume that it would go this way, especially given the state of the economy at these times. But similar to 2007 and 2008, that nonsense went on for an excruciating amount of time because all the numbers are fake anyways. You might have seen that in the movie The Big Short, where the ratings agencies just started fudging things at the end because they're trying to prevent a collapse. Well, that's all is going on right now. They're just they're kicking the can down the road. They're trying to keep this up and up and up and up. And it's dialed into astrology. And I do remember telling everyone vividly that really it's that year of the snake that is caution. All right. Year of the dragon, on the other hand, unless we're in a Shemitah, which we're not, which I'll get to in a moment, that would be the only time where dragon year is caution. But the dragon year is typically bullish from start to finish. And that's what's made me very optimistic about leading into Q4 in the 2024 year. And I've been very open and, sharing this publicly, even for going on for a while now. So the market speculation that just hit, absolute ritual. Anyways, let's just check in on this pattern we've been discussing for some time regarding the S&P. We're going to be going back to 2012, hiding this to get as much data as possible, which is our prior dragon year. And we're going to see we moved up initially bullish and then had a lower high on May 1st, bull trap and correction into June 4th. Now remember, it's May 19th right now, but we were not at all-time highs in the month of May. We had a little bit of a push up, fake out May 1st, and then that was a bull trap. And we weren't even at all-time highs at all during that dragon year because they came in the 07 bubble. Zoom into one of the most famous dragon years of all time, which was the .com bubble in 2000. You can see we moved up to our highs in late March, and then by May, we were lower highs, and we corrected, finishing this pivot off on May 24th. And then we didn't even make a new high at all for the rest of the year. Let's go. But remember, this was also into a Shemitah, which we are not in now. Okay, we're going back to 1988. You could see this peak we hit effectively on April 12th, and we had our standard correction into late May. After that, we hit new highs in the month of June. Let's go back. So you've already seen the pattern. 3 in a row, corrections into May. No new all-time highs in May. Now we're at 1976. We can see peaking in April, having a little chop into late April, another little chop into May 11th, but then still by the end of May correcting into early June pivot, and that was effectively the lowest we went for the rest of the year. Now here is where things get interesting, and I've been talking about this in the early days, but not as much lately because it's rare that this happened. But we can see we're into April, and then we had a little dip into late April, but then kept going with a peak high on May 12th, and we held bullish pretty much all throughout. And then right when we got into the third week of May, we did come down into June. But you see how we made our highs here in April, and then we came up for a slightly new all-time high in mid-May, which is what we just watched happen this time. So this right now, this example of 1964 is much more similar to what we're seeing in most iterations, but we still got that correction into June. Beautiful buying opportunity. Now we're going to be going back to, so 1940? No, we should have one more in between, 52. Year of the Dragon. We have this push up into March, standard correction into early May, actually, and still no new highs until around mid-June. So we broke out into new highs in June. That would be your high. We were not at all-time highs, or highs in the yearly, at least, in the month of May. Corrective in May. Going back to 1940, one of my favorite examples because it was World War II, very, very interesting times. Now, we've made it through a lot of this stuff. We're at here right now. We'd be opening on Monday, right there. Anyways, we corrected into June. This was a textbook time to bounce because typically the lowest we get on the corrections in late May or early June is by early June, and then we recover off of that, and that might be the lowest we go for the remainder of the year, and that's a pattern that we saw in all past iterations. Clearly no new highs here. This was a horribly bearish correction because it broke these lows over here, these higher lows. Once we cascaded below that right there and broke this low, that started to invalidate structure. And then that's where things got pretty rough. And this chop up to retesting some of these lows over there with the rejection, incredibly bearish. One other thing to mention is we had this year we were talking about quite a bit as well, which was 1941 because of the Uranus or the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. And that happened right here. And you see that about 17 days later into 24 days later after the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, we had started to recover off of that, but it wasn't until June that we actually started breaking structure. But the timeline that we were the lowest in was the same time of year, May 26th or late May. But let's just keep in mind that if we took 24 days after, let's go quickly into the S&P. I just want to see what, because we had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on the 20th. Holy fuck, that was the bottom. Oh my God. That's crazy, dude. God, I'm starting to really love astrology a lot because it's fascinating. And I'm curious about it like a child. Like I by no means know. It's the same with Gematria. I'm having so much fun with learning about it. So anyways, we got to 24 days out and we were already extended past it. So much different actually. But this rally off post Jupiter-Uranus conjunction was not weird. We will eventually, we're going to get it. But the fact that we got it and it came in so instantly, and the fact the market perfectly corrected into that date is amazing. Wild. Anyways, let's go back now to 1928, I believe, was the last and the final iteration that we get data for. Okay, so we're at this very important year of 1928, and look at what the market's doing. It's going up past April into May, and boom, we topped out on May 7th, a micro double top on May 14th, and then we started to correct into June. So it does, even in the two iterations that we were hitting new all-time highs in mid-May, which is in alignment with what we're seeing now, they were just bull traps, I would call them, because we had still a deeper correction coming in June, in early June. So this is fascinating stuff, how we had 1964 and 1928. I want you guys to save those years, have fun analyzing them on your own. It's pretty clear to me, though, that that's a pattern that even though we are moving up right now, we do have a chance at seeing the stock market still correct into early June. And that all of that bullish energy that came in just recently came in too quickly, too short of a timeline. We're already approaching overbought in the S&P. Could be a time for a short little correction. And, you know, because it was synchronized with this GameStop stuff, it's also making me feel like it's just a bull trap ritual to get eyes on the market. That's why they use things like Doge and Shiba and GameStop and Wall Street Bets and all of this. They're using it to get attention from people who wouldn't normally be giving it attention on the market. It's part of the ritual. So it's like the Drake and Kendrick Lamar thing. Like, people went from not caring at all about hip hop to now they're invested in this rap battle. It's crazy. Like, it's so easy to control humanity through the drama. So, anyways, Wall Street Bets and this GameStop thing and stuff going on in X.com, it brought more eyes and more attention to the market than we saw for the past 2 months, all since maybe the Bitcoin ETF stuff. So it's done by design. I want you to be aware of that. Anyways, 1928, 1964, fascinating years. We moved up into mid-May, but still had that correction into June. This is not WatersAbove's opinion. This is the facts. I'm just showing you these charts. I'm trying to get you to, do your own investment thesis based on where you're at with your financials. And as you know, I've made 2 big entries in this market before late May. I wasn't waiting, so I hope you weren't either. We're at that time right now where the waiting game people are really, they're going to get squeezed. Don't be one of them. Now, the last thing I want to bring up is 1972, because there's this concept. A lot of people believe 1972 is mirroring this year, which is fine. We'll review that year to just see how the months of May and June were acting. And you can see we rose bullish into late or mid-April 72. Then we corrected into early, like the first week of May, and then came up for a new all-time high, I believe. Yes, technically. We came up for a new all-time high into May 26th, and then we had this chop and deeper correction even into July. That would be very weird, because in dragon years, we typically see a very bullish July. So in this setup, unless we were to copy, I don't know if we are copying this, but we do have this similarity right here of we'll be opening up May 20th, which here would align with the May 22nd candle on a Monday. And we could have a couple of more days of this before a turnover. And that would really shake people out. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But all in all the iterations that I've showed you are not like this just parabolic advance into price discovery. It's a barely new all-time high during the month of May, and then followed by a correction sometime into June. So again, not my opinion. I'm just the one showing you the data. And this is very esoteric, by the way, because most people aren't looking at the market based on the Chinese year, based on Shemitah cycles, based on looking at these eclipses and whatnot. So this is really unique stuff, even though we're just here reviewing it, because at the end of the day, what we're caring about most is obviously the crypto market. That's where the ROI is. So now we're going to go over and review gold and silver, because of this breakout that we've recently had. So as you're all aware, we had this $2,400 target on gold far in advance. I told you to anticipate that for the dragon year. And the reason for that is because we're in the year of 24 Gregorian and the year 5,784 in Hebrew, adding up to 24 before reduction. And it's also the year of the X, the 24th letter in the alphabet. And gold hit that big 24 level in like a parabolic fashion, by the way. Like, look at how dialed in this was, because off of this pivot, which is literally around Chinese New Year, by the way, we went straight to $2,400, followed by a big liquidity event, chop and a distributional top for about, a week. And then we had this like cup bowl formation coming, and now we've effectively closed a daily above 2,400. This is a actual breakout, guys. So anyone that was involved in the gold analysis that I was sharing back in September leading into the October war, that black swan, effectively Israel declaring war, that was an absolute black swan. If you don't think it was, then I don't know what to tell you, considering it was literally within 24 hours of the 50-year anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. I mean, how much more ritualistic could that be, But this gold, and the way that gold was trading into that moment, was clear that the market maker was doing this on purpose. It was to push people out, scare people out. Then we had the war event, and immediately following it, everything's gone super bullish since for gold. So I put about 10% of my wealth into gold at that time, and thus far it's turned out to be a very lucrative play on my end. We're upwards of 30%, so I've outperformed the market, I would assume, given the similar timeline. Yeah, crazy to watch gold do this, but I think the real story is silver. But I want you guys to get some quick analysis on gold before we move on to silver. We have this swing high to swing low Fibonacci retracement. We're going to double click to just make sure where we're at. So we have it on the linear. We're going to go ahead and set it to logarithmic because we're looking at a pretty long time horizon, believe it or not. We're looking at from August all the way till here, which is 4 years, effectively going on 4 years. Now we are just poking at the 1618 if we have it set up that way. Well, our next big target, I'm going to double click this again and show you. By the way, we would need to get, I would like to see a monthly close above 2,450 USD per ounce. If we could get a daily close above that, I do very much think the next level is going to be this 2,800. And consider some of the numerology here. 2,700 would be on my mind because of the Jupiterian influence. We have the Jupiter symbol being the 24, and we have Jupiter in Chaldean being 27. That's just one thing I wanted to bring up. Now, as for gold, we have this 38. There's some other, we have Aurum is another one to talk about, but we're in this place right now where I think that we can continue to see this going up for quite a bit, to be completely honest. I think this is an official breakout, and we should start seeing this now rally and rally and rally for some time, just like this phase back here, where we broke into price discovery and we went straight to that 1618 target in the bigger range. Now, if we were to align this here, you can see if I have from swing high to swing low on a one, oh my, is that how many years? 11 or 12? You can see this is an over decade long horizontal trading range that we've broken out of. I know it's a little messy, excuse me. But if I look at where the 1618 aligns on this macro fib pull, that's at 2,800, which is in alignment with the 2618 of the smaller micro fib pull. Even though it's not that small of a trading range, it's still 4 years. So I feel 2,800 is in the cards. And there could be some gematria and like fancy stuff you could do over there, but from a technical perspective, this would make a lot of sense, especially since if we look at the last horizontal trading range, this interaction with the breakout. So we have from swing high to swing low, and we went parabolically into this 1618. Well, that would make sense for us to hit that technical target as well. So yeah, keep this stuff in mind, family. I haven't been doing too much decoding on gold itself. Yeah, we have so many 22s in gold as well. Considering, look, Aurum or gold is 79th element. That's the 22nd prime number. AU is 22 in just basic English ordinal. Then I know we have the 38 in ordinal, just English ordinal. Why that's so powerful is because 38, 3 times 8 is 24. Been talking about this even in the Year of the Dragon Decoded. So for sure, that 24 target was crucial. See how far we could go. I mean, for me, I feel that 28 is big. Let's get to silver. And some people might be asking, Waters, are you going to de-risk at $2,800 gold? No. Gold was a decision for me that is lifetime. All right. It's like I have a Bitcoin position that I have for life that I will not sell. I'm just going to ride the wave of the dollar going to shit. So it's the same thing with gold. Like, what's the point of getting fancy on gold if it's only going to push up a total 100% move or 150%? Like, that to me is the lifetime play, right? So I'm just going to sit in it until, we get to a point, whatever year that is, where we can like chuckle that it was an amazing It was an amazing decision. But I think we're just in the process right now of watching the tokenization of our economy, watching the death of the dollar, BRICS expansion. I mean, over the next 3 years particularly, and then moving into the next Shemitah, I can't even wait to see what gold is at that time. $3,800 ounce gold, that would not shock me. That would not shock me in that time horizon. And of course, I'll cover that when that time comes. But I'm just going to take a quick sip of water and then we'll finish up the silver TA. All right, all right. Beautiful breakout on silver. I had two critical things that I brought up to you guys in past analysis. One was the 786 macro fib. This macro fib pull, we have it on a monthly chart, by the way. This is how long silver has not had a price discovery opportunity. This is 1980, guys. Imagine being in silver here. At the time, imagine being in a play that you were able to get out of, even if you were able to get out here. A 1,000% move in that short of a time frame, you would have been a genius. But good luck. Who could you have sold it to, right? Who wanted to buy it? Cascaded. That's a crazy blow off top, by the way. Also, let me just show you how scripted this all is. What atomic element number is silver? 47. Huh. It hit 47 twice on a double top? Shocking. See, if you knew the code, if you know the code, you can use the code. And it's beautiful when you see the code reveal itself. But anyways, now we're done with this range, I believe. If we are to come back and retest it, it would be healthy because we've still been chopping in this huge horizontal trading range going on forever now, like to 1980. We won't get price discovery truly until, I suppose, a monthly close is above $50 an ounce. But if any time frame for this to happen, if there's any time in history for this to happen, it's soon. With what's going on in the economy, it's like, yay, we have all-time highs in the stock market. But like, you really study what's happening in the economy and it's clear that bank collapses are going to continue to happen probably in the next every quarter, I would assume at this point. So get ready for that. Exciting times. Anyways, so we can quickly advance up to this $45 range because there's thin air between. There's only this weird trading range between the 786 and the 888 fib. But that all, every time we kind of are on this rally and breaking above this, we happen to smash into all-time highs pretty fast. So we can be at new all-time highs in silver before the end of this calendar year, depending on a couple factors. Especially like if we're getting closer to election season, I think that'll be more noticeable. But I'm going to keep the analysis short and sweet on this because we don't really know where silver can go after this. It's been coiling up since 1980. $240 an ounce would be mind-blowing. But we have that 240 code. This is the 240 year. The only thing I don't think is we need to consider, I would want to consider maybe $74 to 107. That would be really interesting. But $100 is a big psychological level. Like imagine $100 per ounce of silver and you can't even sell it anywhere, barely. So yeah, we get things like this that happen. Let me show you really quickly if I could pull out the... What the hell's going on? 1 second. Something like this. That kind of thing happens all the time on breakouts. So if we get a partial new all-time high to like 74 and then come back and back test these prior two highs, that would be the greatest thing to happen. All right, so that wouldn't shock me, but that could take until like 2029, guys. That could take till 2028. This isn't crypto. This shit moves slow. So yeah, just keep that in mind. A lot of people are wondering how expansive this short squeeze can happen in. Well, it's just like this. It could retest all-time highs pretty fast, then you got to see what it does after that. Okay, let's get over to Bitcoin. We're going to wrap Bitcoin up fast because we've already covered the key TA. We're going to go to a weekly chart. I'm going to turn off all this noise. Now, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the past 6 candles closing red. And this week, we're looking pretty damn good with this jump up all the way to 67. And we still have a lot of time to go before CME opens. So when the Chicago Mercantile Exchange opens later, we'll have to see how that turns out. But needless to say, this is not the prettiest looking chart anymore. We know we had this, sorry, 1 second, 2-week close. Yeah, we have the following 2-week close coming in today. This again would just be a lower high. We're not calling it crazy bullish until it's able to break that 69,000 resistance. We have the monthly chart. We would just be making another low. This type of green, red, green pattern is actually pretty bullish, but it would only really be convincing if it was a bullish engulfing candle. And this is just another low. We have the buy. So this was a big one. We talked about this on the last couple videos. This what's considered a gravestone doji on the 2-month chart, bi-monthly, that's big. We are looking pretty good as of today, but this was the close, and we don't have another close coming until July. So I think this will get resolved between now and then, but it'll likely be more chop if you're a macro analyst and you want to look at this from the macro perspective. Now we have the weekly. We remember we talked about the tap on the 21 EMA. We got that. This was a very weird close to follow. The fact that we closed below the 13 EMA, but then had this bounce. Again, 100% driven off the CPI data nonsense. And it is pretty fascinating that as of today, 67 days after the prior all-time high, we're at 67K. Pretty synchronized in that way. But as long as we're holding this 21 exponential, we're incredibly bullish. So we have the 5-day held on the 21 EMA as well. We have the 3-day was holding support on the 34, but we have the 13, 21, and 34 all sloping to the upside. So it's looking like a more recovery posture. Let's look at where the EMA, okay, so we still have the 55 quite a bit beneath us, but the moving averages are looking fine. 2-day, we're really coiled up. The 2-day 55 was an incredible bounce that we got in both attempts. So if we were to come back, I do think that that would hold. A part of my soul is saying that. Like, I do kind of feel that this swipe to 56,500 on May 1st might be the lowest it gets for Bitcoin, especially this month, unless like some black swan shit happens, which is always possible in this crazy world. But technically, we should be holding this 55 simple. And then you guys already know the story about the 200 EMAs. In the last cycle, we touched down on the 200 EMAs during this particular time frame. But now that they're getting closer to this 54 and the 53 area, they're getting a little bit above this prior trading range, which means that if we were to have a black swan, something big and heavy, it would just go back to this previous trading range, which is fine. I mean, I'm leaning that way a little less right now, considering we don't have an FOMC until like the middle of June. But we do have those 2 iterations that I showed you from 1964 and 1928 showing the late May correction into early June. Could very well be the case. But we want to zoom in here and show something that's posturing, which is the 55 has been holding as a support lately on the daily chart, and the 8 simple could very well be crossing above. When that happens, it's a wolf cross with upside implied, and the fact that this has finally broke above the 55 after being a resistance going back to late April, that's a beautiful move. For us to break above, hold daily closes higher, even get a daily close higher than what we got back on April 22nd. And now we're still treating it as a resistance, the 67K area, but that's a very important cross. So we don't have that in bearish posture on the 2-day, 3-day, 5-day, weekly, none of these macro time frames. That means that we're still obviously very bullish in the grand scheme of things, and any pullbacks are just buying opportunities. But you see on the 12-hour chart, look at the resistance on the 55 that we got, and then once we popped above it, we have a wolf cross, and now all things are looking back in bullish posture again. So yeah, at this time, everyone, I think the lowest we'll get is maybe a touch at 60 to 61. I think that'll be a strong hold. And then, of course, wicks, tails below are possible, but we're looking pretty good. Ethereum, I already touched base on. We're just kind of choppy in this lower trading range. Keep the 200s in mind, of course, if we are to get another push to the downside, but we're already 25% down from prior all-time highs, so this is a great opportunity, needless to say. And we haven't really been interacting too much with the 55 simple, so keep that in mind as well. When we get above that with a wolf cross of the 8 above the 55, when those two things happen, that's when I would be anticipating recovery, and likely like a cup and handle pattern forming too. XRP, same story as Ethereum, getting rejected off this 34 EMA very clearly on the daily. So keep that in mind. We have all of our EMAs in a bearish posture for XRP. All right, we're speaking technically right now. 200s are at the top, 55 above all three key EMAs. We have the 34 above the 21 above the 13, and the 8 is at the bottom. This is the absolute most bearish structure you could have for your EMA band. Just being real. So what this tells me is until we could recover above the 200s with macro candle, like I'm talking getting back above this 58 to 59 cent level plus closing like a 5-day candle or a weekly, then having the wolf cross where the 8 crosses above the 55 and then flipping this EMA band above the 200s, that would be when I would shift more bullish. But for now, this is a very weak chart. Very, very weak. And you can see this has been our key support level since XRP was no longer deemed a security to retail investors. So that's going on 300 days soon, 280 days effectively. We're still at the same supports. So this tells me that we're unlikely to go much lower, but we're still not really in a recovery vibe. And if it's going to take something exoteric to bring energy to this, that's quite sad. But we've talked about this many times, that if you go to the 2016, 2017 charts, it took Bitcoin entering price discovery after getting a new all-time high and rejected before ETH or XRP really started breaking out. So step 1 was getting a brand new all-time high, rejected, followed by a correction and a sideways consolidation. Check, check, check. What we need now is Bitcoin price discovery, which would be the next move up, breaking into 75,000 plus. That is when XRP went crazy. So until we get there, we're just kind of doing what XRP was doing near the very end of that correction back then, which was this. We were there looking like shit while Bitcoin was pretty much back at all-time highs. So that's very similar, and I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's about as deep as we have to get here because there is no new data to share. Although I think what I just shared on the EMAs and the EMA band itself could be pretty enlightening. Let's go over to Stronghold. We're going to be looking at a couple charts today over on CoinTrader Pro, because they're not available on TradingView, at least not that I could find, and I still wanted to cover this, so I'm using CoinTrader Pro for that purpose. But I just want people to be aware. I know that this is a very popular project. A lot of people wanted me to review it. This type of action that I'm seeing in this chart, unless this is all screwed up data, this is horrible. Like whatever this chop is, it looks like a lie detector test. And then all this energy over here, who the hell knows what was going on? It's just scam wick after scam wick, tons of liquidity problems. I'm not sure what the hell that is. So it's frustrating to even do TA on a project that looks like this because of how awkward the data is. It's not so trustworthy, but it's clear to me that this does align at least with the prior cycle because we had highs in May 2021. It's very similar to what happened with a majority of the altcoins back in 2021 around May. We had this weird kind of double top thing that happened in August. Again, very similar to what a lot of coins did. And then it followed by a total loss of like 99% of its value. There you go. So this project effectively lost everything, coming back 99%, and was trading where it was back in like January, February at the start of 2021. So now it went in this horizontal trading range for almost 500 days below the 236. And then the moment it broke above the 236, it rallied. And now we've made it into the golden pocket territory, or at least we're trying to hang in there. So this buyback, if you bought at all during this horizontal trading range, it was lucrative. This thing is up 1,500% from that. I tried to be fair. and put that horizontal trading range somewhere around there. But that's kind of what these sort of projects do when we have any breakouts and after they lose 99% of all their value, So this is not shocking to me. I've seen a couple AI coins do something like this. If you're not positioned in it now, though, we're looking at from where it is to prior all-time high is about 500%. And it's hard to tell where the all-time high was just because of how choppy the data is. So it's about 300% of prior all-time highs. Now, that it's already done this move, I'm not personally going to touch this thing. Only 300% of the upside is like, you're really hoping that this thing can expand. It probably will, though. I'm going to be honest, it could. This was a wild buyback, very speculative kind of buyback. We saw this in some AI coins as well. And it's holding and retesting a pretty technical area. Like the breakout looks solid. Let me show you. Backup phase peaked at around the same point as here, which was a quick bull trap rejection into what continued to be our selling climax. Then look at the way this back tested right here, the peak of here. That's clean. Because after that back test, we rallied. So this is looking good, like in the short term. Had about a 45% correction so far. So again, something to anticipate in alts. 40% mid-cycle corrections are normal in top altcoins. Now 70 to 80% mid-cycle corrections are normal in projects like this. So the fact that it's had a 60-something% move down is not weird to me. I've been talking about this for a while now. The chop that we're getting could turn into a bull flag, and that bull flag, I mean, if you wanted to staff it off of this breakout here, that's fair. I mean, however you want to do that, doesn't really matter to me, but it could very well be pressing up into prior all-time highs, if not slight price discovery. And then with this stuff, it's very random, like where it can go. But this type of move right here and where it's at, it's not something that I would be personally interested in. And by the way, when the bull run's over, this thing will lose 99% of its value again. Now, I know that hurts some people's feelings, but it was what I was saying all in March and April of 2021. I got so much shit for it, even with Solana. I was telling people, I know this is looking good right now. The same thing with Terra Luna. I know this is looking good right now, but I promise you these things will lose 95% of their value, up to 99%. What happened? Terra Luna crashed to zero, and Solana did lose, I believe it was 95% from top to bottom. So yes, these altcoins are dope when you're in them at the right time, but you need to know how to play the game on them. Even if they're like super high in market cap ranking, okay, you got to be careful. Now, if you bought them near the selling climax lows to today, it's awesome. I'm happy for you. You did a great job. Do we have more bull run ahead of us? Absolutely yes. Okay, so I'm not trying to FUD you out of this shit right now. I'm just saying to people that are new, that are seeing this type of move, it's already done almost, 2,000, 3,000%? Yeah, it's already done a crazy move. And the prior movement of it is not convincing. It's very, very retail-like shitcoin movement, And it lost 99% of its value. So clearly it's something you got to be creative with your investment thesis. So I'm not against this project. If you're in it right now and you've made substantial gains, I'm very happy for you. I want all of you to do very well in these cycles, but I myself am going to be on the sidelines with this, with any charts that look like this. Any charts that are already up this high, I'm not going to be interested in. But if I had to share my thoughts, I can't really analyze too much more than I've already shared just because of the prior chart history looks the way that it does and the type of chop that I'm seeing. Now we're going to be looking at XLM. This is not too much to report back on either because now we're back below the 236 of this prior fib pull from swing high to swing low. This is like really riding this outside trend line that I drew ages ago. And if it wants to continue down into it, I mean, damn, we could be back below 10 cents with XRP also coming back to like sub 50 cents. So this is just following XRP. It's really just lagging with XRP, and I can't share too much information. Although when I zoom out We are on the 382 of the prior cycle, which has been holding and retesting this prior SOS. So we had, here was your spring, here was your SOS followed by a backup phase, and then this thing went parabolic. Okay, so where we are now is back testing this fractal over here many times. 1, 2, 3. This is getting very close to bounce and recovery energy, very close to this move right here. Now, the only thing is if we shoot all the way up to the golden pocket, we can still have, let me show you, a 50% mid-cycle correction coming again. So keep that in mind. We can see XLM shoot straight to the 618 and then have a correction back down to the 0.5 fib. Effectively, though, we're in buy territory with this. And this is a project that I would consider having a venture capital position in due to my awareness of the big picture. So I would probably have like 2% of my, or like 1.5 to 2% of my overall portfolio in this project. Okay, we're moving on to Toncoin. This is another one that I needed to use CoinTrader Pro for because there wasn't the most data available on TradingView. Wow. So this was the prior all-time high in November 2021, around the time that Bitcoin hit its prior all-time high. Then this thing went on to lose 87% of its value, so it didn't even lose as much as a lot of other altcoins. Clearly held some sort of support range. Sorry. And now that we've made it all the way up to here, to breaking prior all-time highs, we have had a pretty substantial dip down, 40% mid-cycle correction, back testing this peak over here, and then we are now potentially forming an M pattern, which has a bearish bias. And because we've slightly broke above all-time highs, this is a very precarious range to be in. Remember the silver analysis I just shared with you? So let me show you something that happens sometimes. I know you guys are going to appreciate this. Now, we've seen this shit happen before when we break into slight price discovery and we come all the way back to the golden pocket. I'm not saying that will happen, but I'm just letting you know this is one of those things that we've seen after breaking prior all-time highs. Let me thicken this line really quick. Okay, so we've seen that happen where we get barely new all-time high. Remember, it happened for Bitcoin just recently. And then we break into, I bet you this is the 888 fib. I just don't have it drawn out on this chart. And then after that, some sort of bearish pattern comes in, and then we are back testing the golden pocket. So in the most bullish sense, it would be around the 786 fib, which is in alignment with this right there. And that would be an amazing buying opportunity on something before it goes into its next leg up. Now, got to be honest, I don't know how much price discovery is ahead of this. Typically, we see the 4236 is common, and that aligns with $20. So I would go ahead and assume $20 is probably likely for the top of this cycle. And from where we are today to $20 is about 200%. So that would probably be in alignment like with ETH hitting this $13,000 to $15,000 target. And then also if we were to get a retest back to like the middle of this range, somewhere around $5, you're looking at about 300%. So like I have no desire to touch this thing, although I am aware that it is very high market cap now. Like this shit made it into like what, the top 10. Yeah. So it's in the top 10. It surpassed Dogecoin. That's crazy. I haven't really studied much about this. It has the diamond symbolism. That symbolism is very Saturnian. We have the blue and white. That symbolism is very common in banking. You know, we've seen this with Chase Bank is blue and white, American Express is blue and white, PayPal is blue and white. So that blue and white symbolism is always something to look out for. It's very Zionist colors, but, you know, Israel flag is blue and white. But yeah, this Toncoin thing, I haven't really put too much research into. I do see down here volume has spiked quite a bit, so there must have been something going on exoterically, some narratives. Now, could it go much higher than this? Sure. We've seen in some iterations alts get into the 6 to 8 spot fib extension. So a 6 would be putting us all the way up at $30, and then I would assume, the $50 is in play too. But let's look at from here. Yeah, you're looking at about 700%. So it's still like not really as good as a lot of other things that I've been personally looking at, where they're like 400% to just retest all-time highs, little in price discovery, because this thing's already in price discovery vibe. So I believe the only thing that this was helpful for to review such a project was just to know about some upside potential. I gave you very technical levels, not esoteric levels. But yeah, I would keep that in mind. And I wouldn't personally buy this right now just because of how high it is. Not really too much ROI for what I would be personally wanting. Now, by the way, I'm not trying to FUD you out. This is solid. It's done an amazing job. Now we have we have Star Atlas, a very different chart. We can see from these prior peaks, this thing has lost 99% of its value as well. I'm going to go ahead and pull a fib. And I want to pull the fib from one particular level. One second. I might go off of here. Mamma mia. I'm going to just go over here for now. Yeah, we're still below the 236. Okay, so with what we're seeing on this particular project, we've swiped up into this 382, gotten rejected, now back below the 236. And what I have noticed is this was that momentary support before a bounce. This is crucial. So if we can't hold this level, which we've been playing with now for 23, basically 3 weeks straight, this can absolutely break down another low. And right now, this has had a 70% mid-cycle correction. And I've told you, this is what happens on projects like this. We can go a full 80%. And I think that would be your level right there. So if I could draw a horizontal trading range out for you all, it would be like that. God, it's so weird to have to use like brand new charts. And so we're here, right there. We're effectively at the point. This correction drug down into here. It started building this horizontal trading range. This was going to Hades, and then we gravitated back to it. And now we could effectively be breaking back into it. So this is your zone. Now, I bet you this is like a 5,000% move to all-time highs. Oh my God, how did I guess that? Fuck. I've been looking at too many charts. I'm the real nerd here. So look, this has 5,000% to go back to prior all-time highs. That's how much value it lost during the bear market. So yeah, I mean, this is super speculative shit, but like, at least if it gets back up into this range here, the golden pocket, like that's a crazy move, dude. Could be worth just throwing like $100 into some shit like this, Like this is the stuff you want to throw like $100 into, not financial advice, but throw like $100 into. And just, it's like a slot machine, like it could drown out to zero because it's worthless. But yeah, I mean, or you could get a 2,000, 4,000, 500, 5,000% move. And you don't even need to get into price discovery. You can, I mean, by the way, this is in price discovery, but to the downside. There's no support on this. It's just going to keep draining and draining and draining. Like, I'll give an idea. In the next bull run, this thing might make it up to here, and then go like this, and then just keep going lower and lower and lower into the next cycle. Because the next big thing to see in the crypto market is regulation, and shit like this is not going to last. Yeah, so fascinating chart. Could have a little potential for some venture capital. Throw $100 or something in it, and see what happens. But it can't really provide too much TA on it because of the lacking of chart history, price discovery to the downside. Although revealing this little gap of horizontal trading range could be helpful for those that are interested. Now we're going to quickly tune into P-Hex to Pulse Chain Hex. And I don't have too much to share on this, but like a lot of people have been wondering what's my take on what's going on with Hex. And as some of you might be aware, we have the traditional Hex chart, the E-Hex chart. And this thing has now broken down, and it's still like, 99.99% down from the prior cycle. And we were talking about this moment over here. Let me quickly open this up. You see this moment here where it shot up and then it had a bear trap. Well, we interacted with the same line, and then we have now broken even lower than the support. And I've been told by the Hex community that Richard Hart himself has told everyone to evacuate this and go to PHEX. So I don't think it's even a point anymore to do any TA on EHEX, because look, once it started draining out to this level, we're seeing it now sideways going on, 3 months. I don't know if this could have any recovery opportunity at all. Anyways, we're now looking at this. This was really elusive. I bet you it was Hex insiders that did this move right here, this sharp liquidity injection up to this 3 cent level before pulling the plug. That was a ritual. I know. Because when you have a project with a market cap this low and it's only driven on what's going on with like the drama of the community, yeah, it's obvious that was insiders. Like, if they find the paper trail on whoever's doing all this shit, it's going to be life sentence in prison. I'm not saying it's Richard Hart. It could be so many people behind the scenes that are doing this, but like, I'm surprised the lawsuits aren't coming out already from Hex investors because of this shit. This slide to the downside, it's also, I've been hearing that they've migrated to like DAI stablecoin now. Like, I'm hearing all this crazy shit. It just sounds like it's in panic mode. Like, the community is doing whatever it takes to hang on to this. I'm not against them, by the way. I have no like ill will on anyone who's involved in any of these crypto coins. I just personally feel like this is clear distraction at this time. And the performance in the chart has revealed that. So we're just going to pull up one level, and it's here. It's all of your supports. And you see these were the initial daily closes that we had off launch, which sent you straight to this current high. Then we have this level now. Right around there. Well, if we can't hold this blue line, I think you'll see a double bottom, and then you'll see this thing go even deeper. I don't know why it's unable to recover with the broader market. Something's clearly going on for the Hex community. I suppose they've run out of hope. It happens. It's fine. It's actually honorable for you to shift your perspective over time if something's not working out. I've had to take myself through that many times in crypto as well, and that's totally it is what it is. But yeah, this type of move right now that we're watching, it's not looking so promising, especially due to the narrative that everyone's migrated out of this to go into this and then look at the performance. So yeah. All right, so I can't really say too much on this because I've revealed the horizontal levels, and until we can break above this range, above the golden pocket, it's still in a big horizontal trading range, no new updates, and we're going on 1 full year now. Also, a spring in Wyckoff is very normal. So if this effectively is your selling climax and this is your AR, this is your push down into a spring, which could go like that, an inverse head and shoulders with a punch down to filling this wick at launch. It's a very technical play. I don't have any bias towards if it will play out, but I believe that is a very helpful thing that I just revealed. Okay. Also, stock to flow is doing something that it's usually done in the past too, which is when it turns red, we interact with this stock to flow line. Okay, final words on GameStop. So GameStop has now returned effectively back into near its horizontal trading range after a couple of days of euphoria. Just some quick words of wisdom. Don't get distracted anymore on any stuff like this during this bull run, especially if you're a crypto investor. This stuff is really to take you away from having a solid investment thesis and to just work on yourself. It brings in a lot of distractions, a lot of that type of energy, and perhaps this does bounce, and perhaps this does make it back to all-time highs, okay? Got a 400% move. You're seeing the same thing in Dogecoin, and Dogecoin at least has the history in the past to prove what it does based off of Bitcoin's price discovery. As opposed to this, is this even a company operating anymore? Like the CEO probably made $1 billion in a couple of days and then is rug pulling everyone now. So this is dangerous. I'm not like anti getting into this shit. Like, can't call it a shit coin, a shit stock, game shit. I don't know. But yeah, just be careful. It's really about the energy that's given to it. That's what I'm trying to get people to wisen up to. So it's not a lot of people in our community. Don't feel like I'm singling us out. I know as the Wolf Pack, we are pretty damn good about stuff like this, but it does come, the paperwork hits my table and people want to know, and I'm just kind of finalizing and summarizing my thought here. Having a pump up like this followed by a 65% correction in just a couple trading days whilst the stock market is trading at all-time highs is not a sophisticated asset to be positioned in. It's fun while it's fun. It's tragic while it's tragic. Don't get lost in the sauce. So I'm going to wrap this one up here. We have to see how Bitcoin's weekly close goes this week, but as I've shared with you in the Year of the Dragon analysis, we are brushing up against this resistance on Bitcoin at the same exact time that we've seen the stock market kind of come to its final energy of being bullish during the month of May. And we've seen pullbacks into early June in several iterations. So I'm open-minded to that. I will give you guys a midweek update if necessary, but for now, there's enough analysis here. I appreciate and am grateful for every single one of you, and I'm wishing you all a beautiful rest of your weekend in the Matrix. Much love.